Okay, so you're looking at the BYD Sealion 7. It looks great, but what's the catch? Well, here's something interesting. Even with quite a large battery, its weight might mean you're not getting quite the range you'd hope for, especially compared to some rivals. Right, let's get into it. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on the BYD Sealion 7. This is especially for you if you're thinking about this as maybe your first electric SUV.
Yeah, exactly.
We've looked at reviews, user feedback, basically what people who've actually used the car are saying. We want to go past the shiny exterior and talk about the real-world stuff.
Especially the potential downsides. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of a new EV, but making an informed choice, particularly for your first big car purchase, means looking at the negatives too.
Definitely. And we've seen some common threads in what people are reporting, so that's our focus.
Okay.
So let's start with something maybe not top of mind when you test drive. The software. Some sources we found talk about this feeling, like the software in some newer Chinese EVs is maybe not quite finished.
Yeah, like version 0.9 almost.
Yeah.
Think of getting a new phone, but some apps lag or features are a bit buggy, maybe inconsistent.
Right. What does that mean in the car?
Well, owners have mentioned things like the apps being slow, the main infotainment screen freezing sometimes, even weird translations popping up, or the voice assistant mispronouncing things quite badly. It's not like the car won't drive, but it affects that, quality feel.
So it requires a bit of patience, more than you'd expect from, say, a more established brand.
Exactly. Updates will probably fix things over time, but you need to be okay with how it works now. It's not always as polished as systems that have been around for years.
It's like being an early adopter for a new gadget. You might hit some snags.
Precisely. You're kind of experiencing the tech as it matures in real time. The driving part might be fine, but the digital side is still, evolving. That's key to understand up front.
Okay, let's shift gears to actually driving it. How does the Sealion 7 feel? Several sources talk about the driving dynamics, and the consensus seems to be comfort over connection.
That's a good way to put it. If you really enjoy feeling connected to the road, that precise steering you might get in, say, a Honda or even a BMW, this might disappoint.
So not for the driving enthusiast necessarily.
Probably not. Words like vague come up when describing the steering. There's also talk of noticeable body roll when you take corners.
Leaning.
Yeah, leaning. The suspension is definitely soft, which is, great for soaking up bumps on the commute. Very smooth ride.
But not sporty.
Not sporty, no. Doesn't feel planted or agile in the way some people want from an SUV. Even though it's quick, off the line, that straight line speed doesn't translate to cornering fun.
It sounds more like a plush family mover feel, focused on just getting there comfortably.
That's a fair comparison, like a comfortable MPV almost. So if you're imagining carving up winding roads, this probably isn't it.
And for someone new to cars, it's about knowing what you want. Right? If smooth and comfy for daily trips is the goal, maybe it's fine.
It could be perfectly fine, yes.
Yeah.
But if you think you might enjoy a more engaging drive later on, it's a potential drawback to consider now.
Right. Okay, range. This is a big one for EVs.
Yeah.
Big battery. The Sealion 7 has options up to, 91 kilowatt hours?
Yeah. Pretty substantial.
So you'd think, wow, massive range, but several sources point out it's heavy, heavier than quite a few direct competitors.
And that weight matters. A lot. It directly impacts efficiency, how much energy the car uses to move.
So even with all that battery capacity,
the actual distance you can travel, your real-world range, might be noticeably less than lighter rivals with similar or even slightly smaller batteries. One review called the difference significant.
Okay, significant is a strong word. Do we have numbers?
Well, we saw reports mentioning real-world consumption figures around, say, 18 to 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, especially on the motorway.
And for someone new to EVs, what does that mean? Higher is worse.
Higher means it's using more battery energy to cover that distance. Yes. So those figures suggest it might be less efficient than some other electric SUVs, which naturally cuts down how far you can go before needing to plug in.
So the lesson is, don't just look at the battery size number. Weight and efficiency are huge factors too.
Absolutely. Look at real-world tests, owner reports, not just the official WLTP figures, which are often, let's say, optimistic. How you drive, where you drive, it all affects it. Big battery helps, but doesn't guarantee class-leading range if the car's heavy.
Got it. Let's talk about the tech that's supposed to help you drive. ADS, the Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. Safety stuff.
Lane keeping, adaptive cruise, all that.
Seems like the intention is good, but the execution, Maybe a bit fiddly. Sources suggest the systems in the Sealion 7 can be complex to manage.
Complex and sometimes intrusive, or words that came up. People mentioned things like the lane departure assist feeling overly aggressive, trying to nudge the wheel
Or
constantly.
the traffic sign recognition.
Yeah, that one apparently can beep a lot and keep beeping. Even after you've clearly seen the speed limit sign, it can get annoying fast.
And adjusting these things isn't simple.
Apparently not. One person described needing to navigate through several menu layers on the screen just to tweak the driver monitoring system, like under vehicle, then cabin perception, then find the specific warnings.
That sounds like a pain.
It does. And worse, some drivers reported having to turn off certain features every single time they start the car.
Seriously, every time.
That's what was reported, which suggests the default settings just aren't working for everyone
Yeah.
and constantly changing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would get old.
Wow. Any other ADS quirks?
The driver attention warning system was mentioned as being potentially oversensitive, reacting if you glance away for a second, or even if you're wearing sunglasses, apparently.
Which could actually be more distracting than helpful.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Not ideal, especially if you're just getting comfortable with driving in general.
Okay, let's touch on reliability briefly. Now, these are early days and mostly anecdotal, but have there been any murmurs?
A few things, yeah. Again, not widespread problems reported yet, but
Yeah.
some users mentioned occasional issues just getting the car to start.
Like, it just won't turn on.
Sometimes, yeah. Needing to lock it, unlock it, try again. Sort of basic stuff you don't expect.
Anything else?
There were also mentions, maybe related to other BYD models rather than the Sealion 7 specifically, but still from the same maker. Things like battery discharging unexpectedly, or key fob glitches needing dealer visits.
So, the potential for some early bugs, maybe?
It leans back into that early adopter idea. One review literally said you might feel a bit like a beta tester.
With any brand new model, especially from a brand newer to certain markets, there can be these initial teething problems.
Right. Things that hopefully get sorted out in later production runs.
You'd hope so, yeah.
Okay, inside the car,
Yep.
the cabin. What's the vibe? Some EVs go super minimalist, right? Like almost everything on a screen.
Tesla being the obvious example. Is the Sealion 7 like that?
Not really. Based on descriptions, it sounds like it retains quite a few physical buttons, plus ambient lighting strips, various textures on the surfaces.
Okay.
And the icons on the screen were described by some as potentially a bit busy or detailed. So definitely not that sparse, clean, minimalist aesthetic.
Which could be good or bad, depending on what you like.
Exactly. If you're coming from a traditional car, you might actually prefer having physical buttons for climate control or volume. It might feel familiar.
But if you love that clean, modern, almost Scandinavian look,
Then the Sealion 7's interior might feel a little cluttered or maybe not quite as sleek as you'd hoped. It's very much a matter of personal taste.
it highlights that difference in design philosophy, doesn't it? Stick with tradition or go full-on digital.
It does. And BYD seems to be aiming for a middle ground, or perhaps leaning slightly more traditional in layout, despite the big screen.
Okay, let's talk brand. BYD is huge globally, massive EV maker. But here, in some markets, they're still kind of the new kid on the block, right?
Very much so. They don't have that decades-long history and baked-in reputation that, German brands or established Japanese marques have.
And does that matter?
To some buyers, absolutely. Brand image, perceived prestige, the sort of social capital that comes with certain badges, that's a factor for some people.
So the Sealion 7 might be a good car, but it doesn't necessarily scream premium or status symbol yet.
Probably not in the same way a Mercedes or a Lexus might. No. It might not get those same admiring glances if that's something you care about.
One source put it bluntly, didn't they? Something like, if you're buying mainly for the badge.
This might not be the one for you right now.
Yeah.
It's not a criticism of the car itself, just an observation about current brand perception.
And BYD might build that reputation over time, of course.
Of course. But today, that's where it stands. For some, it's irrelevant. For others, it's part of the decision.
Were there any other sort of smaller niggles mentioned? Little things?
Yeah, a few minor points came up. The
Yeah.
rear view mirror was called out as being a bit small, potentially hindering visibility. The brake pedal feel was described as soft, maybe too much travel before it really bites.
What else?
No true one-pedal driving, apparently. Even on the highest regeneration setting, you still need the brake pedal to come to a complete stop.
Some EV drivers really like that one pedal feel.
They do. Also, a slight delay noted on the electric tailgate opening and closing. And no spare tire, just a repair kit.
Which is becoming more common but still annoys some people.
Definitely. These are small things individually, perhaps.
Yeah.
But add them up, and they contribute to the overall ownership experience, especially if one of them happens to be a particular pet peeve of yours.
Right. Good point. So let's try and wrap this up. We've really focused on the potential downsides today based on user experiences. We talked about the software maybe feeling a bit unfinished, the driving dynamics leaning heavily towards comfort, not engagement.
The real-world range maybe not living up to the big battery promise because of the car's weight.
The driver assistance tech being potentially complex or intrusive.
Those hints of early reliability quirks, being an early adopter.
An interior that's not minimalist, which might not suit everyone's taste.
And the brand perception, which is still developing in many places.
Yeah.
Plus those minor inconveniences.
Exactly. And again, the point here wasn't to bash the car, but to give you, the potential buyer, especially if this is your first EV, a balanced view. Knowing the potential negatives is just as vital as knowing the positives.
Crucial for making the right choice for your specific needs and priorities.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought to chew on. Thinking about everything we've discussed, all these potential drawbacks and quirks, what is the one thing, the absolute non-negotiable feature or feeling you need in your next car? And how does what we know about the Sealion 7 challenge or align with that?
That's a really good question to ask yourself. It helps cut through the noise and focus on what truly matters to you as you look at this car or any other.